So picture this. You are sitting in like absolute gridlock traffic.
Oh, the worst.
Right. You have this crucial meeting in exactly 20 minutes, and your GPS is just completely red for the next, I don't know, 5 miles.
Yeah, you're not making it.
No, you're definitely not. But suddenly, you catch yourself whispering to the dashboard. You're saying like, look, if you just let this lane open up, I promise I will finally call my mother back.
Mm-hmm.
I will be nicer to my neighbors. I will stop cutting corners at work.
You are bargaining.
Exactly. You are bargaining. You are offering up this, well, this supposed good behavior as payment for a highly specific, controllable outcome. We all do this. I mean, we treat the universe like we can bribe it if we just, find the right currency.
It is basically the most enduring human assumption there is. I mean,
Wow.
we operate as if reality is fundamentally a transactional marketplace.
Yeah.
Like, if we can just hit the right combination of good deeds or intense prayers, or even just adopting the aesthetic of being a highly moral, quote-unquote, good person.
Right, the appearance of it.
Exactly. We think reality will be obliged to hand over the things we want. We really do think there is a cheat code to existence.
But, and this is why we're doing this deep dive today, the philosophical text we're exploring. It's a really provocative piece titled, "The Goddess Cannot Be Cheated." It argues that this is actually the defining delusion of human history.
Yeah, it's a complete misunderstanding of how things work.
Totally. And just to be super clear up front for everyone listening, when the sources talk about the goddess, we aren't talking about like a mythological deity sitting on a cloud keeping a tally of your sins.
No, not at all.
In this context, the goddess or the sacred feminine, it really represents the raw, unfiltered reality of existence. It's nature. It's the innate, inescapable intelligence of your own body. It's fate, death, the unpredictable parts of life.
Right. She is essentially a placeholder term for the underlying structure of how things actually are, independent of how we desperately wish them to be.
Yeah.
And the text makes this incredibly strong case that trying to flatter or bargain with or manipulate this reality into yielding its gifts without any genuine exchange taking place, well, it's a structural impossibility.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to focus on that word, structural. Because the way we usually think about our actions feels much more like a transaction. Let me use an analogy here. I feel like we treat reality like a giant cosmic vending machine.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. You walk up, you drop in the coins of your meditation hours, your charitable donations, your perfectly worded affirmations.
You do the work.
You do the work. You punch the button for the thing you desire. So maybe it's perfect health or a massive promotion, a flawless relationship, and you expect the prize to just drop down.
And when it gets stuck a lot.
Exactly. When it gets stuck, what do? We shake the machine.
We get furious.
We get so mad. We feel genuinely betrayed because we paid our dues, we put the coins in.
And that anger comes directly from the belief that devotion guarantees an outcome. Which the author of the text points out something incredibly sharp about this. Most of the time, our performances of devotion are actually just camouflage for extraction.
Wait, say more about that.
Well, we aren't doing the spiritual practices or the good deeds because we want to be in an actual relationship with reality. We are doing them specifically to bypass the messy, difficult work of personal transformation. We just want to extract the result.
I see.
It's this elaborate system of trying to get the gold without mining the ore.
Okay, I hear what you're saying about reality not being a vending machine, but honestly, look at the concept of karma.
Okay.
The way almost everyone talks about karma is literally just a cosmic vending machine. I mean, I do a good deed, I get a good parking spot. I do a bad deed, I get a flat tire. How is that not a transaction?
Because that popular conception of karma is entirely backwards. I mean, the text drops a massive paradigm shift right here. Karma is not a system of punishment and reward. It is physics.
Wait, pause. Physics.
Yeah.
So the universe isn't keeping, like, a moral ledger.
No ledger at all. The text explicitly states this isn't about vengeance or cosmic justice from some judge with a gavel. What we call karma is simply the nature of reciprocal exchange operating at its most honest, mechanical level.
So it's just cause and effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The goddess, meaning reality or nature, is just the field where karma becomes legible. Think about gravity. If you drop an apple, it falls to the ground.
Right.
The universe isn't punishing the apple for being dropped. It's just the structural reality of mass and attraction.
Let me make sure I'm really wrapping my head around this. So it's not that reality is judging you for being a little bit selfish while pretending to be generous. It's that reality is a structure. And when you try to extract something without offering anything genuine in return, you just hit a wall.
You meet your mirror. In the presence of actual reality, there is literally nowhere to hide the difference between your performance and your truth. The text emphasizes that reality is the domain where what you actually are meets its reflection, not what you intend to be, not the story you tell your friends. The gap between your managed appearance and your underlying truth just closes.
That is heavy. And, if this is just structural physics, as you say, this isn't some new age concept we just invented last Tuesday.
Oh, definitely not.
People must have noticed this thousands of years ago. Ancient civilizations must have run into this exact same wall.
They absolutely did. And they encoded this inescapable physics right into their mythologies. They mapped out these structural realities using the symbols of their time.
Right.
What's fascinating here is how the text dissects three specific mythological figures to prove this. Starting with the ancient Mesopotamian goddess Inanna. She is famous for her descent into the underworld.
Right. And in that story, Inanna has to pass through 7 gates to get to the underworld. And at each gate, she has to remove a piece of her royal clothing or her jewelry, right?
Exactly. So by the time she arrives, she's stripped entirely bare.
And the crucial detail the text points out is that this wasn't a moral test. To cheat Inanna wasn't a sin. It was a structural impossibility.
Because she represented the threshold itself. Think about trying to walk through a doorway that is, say, 3 feet tall. You cannot pass through that space without physically bending down to conform to it.
You literally don't fit.
Right. Inanna's descent required her to strip away her defenses, her royal status, her armor. The physics of that threshold demanded absolute vulnerability. You couldn't bribe the gatekeeper to let you keep your crown. You simply couldn't pass without becoming exactly what the passage required.
We have to pay the toll of transformation. I mean, you can't wear a thick winter parka into a sauna and then complain that you aren't sweating.
That's a great way to put it. The environment demands you change.
But what if someone just refuses the doorway entirely? What if they say, I don't like these physics, I'm just going to ignore the rules and do what I want?
Well, the ancient Greeks had an answer for that, and her name was Ananke. She was the goddess of necessity or inevitability.
Inevitability.
Yeah. And the text makes a really fascinating distinction about her. People did not worship Ananke to please her. They didn't want her offerings hoping she would change her mind or grant them a favor.
Because you can't bribe inevitability.
Exactly. She was acknowledged precisely because she could not be escaped. She is the undeniable what is of any given situation.
It's literally like worshiping gravity. You don't ask gravity for a favor, you just respect its existence so you don't fall off a cliff.
Yes. And then if we look further east, we look at Kali from the Hindu tradition. In the West, Kali is often totally misunderstood as this terrifying, wrathful demon who just goes around destroying things because she's angry.
Right, the multi-armed goddess of destruction. It seems like the complete opposite of an impartial physical law.
But the text corrects that misunderstanding brilliantly. Kali does not angrily punish people who try to use her for personal gain. She isn't throwing lightning bolts because her feelings are hurt. She simply is the dissolution that naturally follows human overreach.
Give me a visual for that. What does that dissolution actually look like?
Okay. Imagine building a skyscraper completely out of glass, 100 stories high.
Okay.
But you refuse to build a steel foundation because it takes too long and costs too much. When that tower inevitably shatters and collapses, that collapse is Kali.
Oh, wow.
It's not a punishment, it's just the natural structural consequence of trying to extract more height than the base can hold.
Okay, so Inanna proves you have to change to pass the threshold. Ananke proves the rules are inescapable. Kali proves that if you build without a foundation, you will collapse. We might look at those ancient stories and think they're just quaint myths.
But they're not.
No, we're doing the exact same thing today. We are constantly overreaching. We want the gifts without paying the price. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the source material outlines how this architecture of extraction shows up right now in modern life.
It really does. The author describes how we attempt, across pretty much every level of society, to extract reality's gifts while refusing its terms. We want the creative abundance without the humility of being receptive. We want deep, profound healing, but we absolutely refuse to go through the painful reckoning and shadow work that healing structurally requires.
We want the power, but we refuse the submission. And the text gives 3 really grounded examples of this, starting at the macro level with civilization itself. like how we treat the Earth.
Right. A civilization that treats the Earth's body purely as raw material, mining the soil, deforesting, polluting the oceans without any reciprocity, discovers something terrifying. Extraction has a structure, and that structure curves back.
Curves back. I love that phrasing. We operate like we are taking resources out of a bottomless pit, but we are actually taking from a closed loop. Eventually, the climate radically shifts, the topsoil dies, the water systems fail. It curves back on us.
Yes.
That is the glass tower collapsing. That is Kali right there. It's the dissolution following the overreach.
Exactly. And then the text zooms in from the societal level down to the individual level. It looks at the modern spiritual practitioner, someone who is pursuing spiritual awakening, mindfulness, or enlightenment, but doing so as a covert form of ego building.
Oh, man. I think we all know this exact person. Let's paint a picture here. It's the guy who goes to a remote ayahuasca retreat in the jungle to dissolve his ego. But he comes back and spends the next 6 months turning every single dinner party into a hostage situation, bragging about how much more enlightened he is than everyone else. He's using his spiritual status to gain power and social currency.
And what the text argues is that this approach completely fails to open what it claims to seek. Mechanically, it fails because the inner orientation is extractive because he is trying to consume enlightenment like a product to make himself look better. He literally blocks himself from the actual ego-destroying reality of the sacred.
So the physics just don't allow it.
Right. The physics of the space do not allow an extractive ego to experience true dissolution.
He didn't take off his armor at the gate, so Anna didn't let him in. He just bought a souvenir T-shirt in the lobby and told everyone he went to the underworld.
That is exactly it.
And the third example the text uses is the lover. This one feels incredibly common today.
It is. The lover who pursues the feminine or really pursues romance, intimacy, and connection purely as a source of feeling. They want the high. They want the butterflies and the validation. But they treat the other person or the relationship itself merely as a resource to generate those feelings for themselves.
So they aren't actually seeing the other person. They're just using them as an emotional ATM.
Exactly. And what happens structurally? The text notes that by treating connection as a resource to be mined, that very feeling becomes increasingly inaccessible. The more they try to aggressively extract the feeling of love, the more numb, disconnected, and empty they become.
Because true connection requires genuine vulnerability.
Yes, you cannot use another human being's soul, and every attempt at use becomes part of the physical accounting.
But here is where it gets really insidious. What if someone knows all of these rules? What if they know the universe curves back, so they actively try to fake the reciprocity? I call this spiritual greenwashing.
Spiritual greenwashing, that is the perfect term for the next section of the text.
Think about corporate greenwashing. A massive oil company puts a little green leaf on their logo, prints their brochures on recycled paper, and talks about sustainability, all while actively dumping toxic waste into a river.
Right.
We do this on a personal level. We try to perform the right relationship. We learn all the therapy language. We act humble. We make a big show of our offerings. But internally, our core motivation is still 100% extractive. We're just trying to outsmart the vending machine by pretending we don't care if the prize drops.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this brings us to the most vital concept in the entire source material: coherence. The terms of the goddess, the physics of reality, are not arbitrary. Her terms are coherence.
Wait, freeze. The text uses the phrase relational field when talking about coherence, which honestly sounds like quantum physics meets couples therapy. If I am standing in my kitchen having an argument with my spouse, what does coherence actually look like? How does a relational field work?
Okay, let's use the kitchen argument. Coherence is the absolute alignment between what you are and what you do, between what you claim to value and how your nervous system is actually operating. In that kitchen, you might be using all the right therapy words. You might be saying, I hear you, I validate your feelings, I'm holding space for you.
But my jaw is clenched, my arms are crossed, and my only actual goal is to win the argument and make them admit they were wrong.
Yes. Your words say reciprocity, but your body and your intent say extraction. The relational field is simply the space between you and your spouse where that lie is felt. Your spouse's nervous system will intuitively feel that you are full of it, even if they can't articulate exactly why. The field just doesn't resonate. Reality is the intelligence that knows the difference, not because it's judging you, but because the structure of a lie simply cannot support the weight of genuine connection.
So reality is the domain of actual truth, rather than managed appearance. I can manage my appearance for my boss. I can curate my Instagram to look perfectly serene. I can convince society that I am generous, but I cannot manage my appearance for reality itself.
You really can't. And the text notes this is why traditions across cultures associate the feminine divine with the moment of reckoning. She is the place where what is real meets what is claimed to be real. And there is a profound direct quote from the text here. It says, "She is not unkind, she is honest. And honesty at the scale of the cosmos has consequences that patience makes visible."
Wow. Honesty at the scale of the cosmos. To try and bribe that kind of physical law is absurd. Reality doesn't want your performative suffering or your carefully curated sacrifices. It just demands the truth of who you are.
The requirement for genuine relationship with life has never been a secret. It's just exceptionally difficult for the human ego to accept. The text provides a very clear resolution here. The path forward requires real exchange, real offering, and above all, a real willingness to be changed by the contact.
Which means giving up control. You cannot enter a genuine relationship with a pre-planned outcome.
You cannot. It requires actual presence with what is right in front of you rather than what you hope to extract from it later. The text concludes with a stark truth. The goddess cannot be had by those who approach her with the intention of having her. She can only be met.
You can't possess reality. You can't put it in your pocket. You can only participate in it. And going back to Inanna at the gates of the underworld, honest meeting, genuine, vulnerable contact with reality changes everything that passes through it. You cannot remain the same person once you drop the managed appearance. You have to be willing to shed the armor.
And you know, when you finally stop trying to bargain with reality, when you drop the exhausting performance of trying to pull the right levers on the machine, the relief is profound.
It's terrifying, but it takes all the pressure off.
Yeah.
You just have to be honest. So what does this all mean for you listening? I want to stretch this concept out a bit and leave you with a final thought to really mull over. We've been talking about the inescapable physics of actual reality versus managed appearance. We've established that extraction has a structure that always curves back on the person extracting.
Right.
Think about what this means for us today, living in a hyper-digital society. We spend a massive portion of our waking lives curating digital managed appearances. We have built an entire global economy that treats human attention as an infinite resource to be extracted through algorithms, infinite scrolls, and viral outrage.
It's all extraction.
But if we know that the universe is a closed loop, and if we know that extraction inevitably causes the glass tower to collapse, how will this digital extraction eventually curve back on us?
That's the real question.
If reality fundamentally cannot be cheated, what is the karmic accounting, the absolute inescapable physics for a society that is increasingly living inside a virtual performance? If you can't cheat the goddess, what happens when the wifey drops and we are forced to actually meet reality face to face? Think about that next time you find yourself bargaining with the machine. Until next time.